Well, for more on how refugees are shaping economies, I spoke to Michael Czinkota, a professor at the McDonough School of Business at Georgetown University. I began by asking which sectors are impacted the most.
I'll give you the example of current employment, which takes place in I'd say, very low-tech sectors such as garbage can manufacturing, plastic crate production. Those are very low-skilled, low-tech employment opportunities. At the same time, over time, there may be the opportunity to grow in those jobs, to do better, to get ready for other opportunities.
So let's also look at the spending power of some of these immigrants, both to the local economy and more broadly. What's your take on that?
Well, typically, those who start out in the marketplace don't have a lot of money to spend, even though they have a job. For example, I just the other day in Canterbury looked at people who had just arrived and were looking for their first job. And many of them here basically drive bicycles, ride bicycles to deliver pizzas, which, especially when the weather is bad, is not a happy activity. But together with the salary they get and the tips they get, they can save to bring other members of their family over. But their desire is not at this initial stage to do the consumption and drive that high, but rather to fill family needs.
Now, let's also look at some of the biggest challenges. You mentioned this idea of really trying to find your feet when you first come into a community. What do you see as the biggest challenges for refugees and some possible solutions?
Well, quite candidly, I think the biggest challenge is how does one get integrated into society? Because very often the message, although subtly communicated by some, is that there is no need for integration, just do your own thing. And I think that's wrong advice. If you come to America, if you try to be part of society, then there has to be a modicum of acceptance of local rules and of the ability to be part of the system. Now, this doesn't mean you sort of give up on your own culture, but it means you respect the culture that surrounds you and that has welcomed you. And that I see as the biggest challenge. And from there, one works the way up to successfully come up with new ideas which can consist, for example, of saying, my fellow Somalians do not have any good Somali food here. Maybe I should open a store which supplies such foods.
And Michael, as we look at the trends that we're seeing both in the US and also perhaps to what's happening in Europe, how does that compare?
Well, I mean, if you look at the numbers, in Europe, they are much greater than here. So in the United States, we are now looking at annual refugee inflow of 50 to 70,000. In Europe, for example, in Germany, the number last year was close to 1 million, and the year before it exceeded 1 million.